can agree, I would imagine, that this defense needs to be markedly better at stopping the run than it was in 2024. Where we might disagree is whether or not the team's done enough to address that beyond the draft. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also cover two other teams in town, the Penguins and Pirates, and offer daily shots on those teams as well. Hope you'll check those out. There's a big splash that comes from getting not one, but two big additions to your defensive line in a single draft class, especially when your first rounder is one of them. And that's what happened, sure enough, when Derek Harmon was drafted and then later when Y.A. Black was drafted. The excitement about both of them really followed right away, and it was deserved, and it'll probably continue to be that into Latrobe and into the regular season. But I have all kinds of thoughts on this particular issue, and I've had them since season's end, chief among them being whether or not this was really that big of a problem, considering the Steelers were still top 10 in this category by season's end, even after the collapse. Even if you were to somehow statistically weigh the playoff debacle in Baltimore into that. And another is, well, if this really was that big a deal, then why did certain things happen that don't really seem to align with that thinking? For example, and I've raised this one a number of times, in that Baltimore game, one player had 14 tackles, twice as many as anybody else on his team. One player had the reputation on the inside linebacking core as being a force against the run. And that one player was allowed to walk away for a song, that of course being Landon Roberts, who's now with the Raiders. Usually when a move like that occurs, there's some, underlying inside the game explanation. Well, yeah, but you didn't see how he was in this situation or that situation. But I'm sorry, if you can see any major malfunctions in Roberts' overall game, feel free to share, because I didn't. Was he the greatest in coverage? No, but is that what we're talking about here? No. Here's another, nowhere near as egregious, but, as long as I'm listing here. Almost immediately after the draft, the first player, the only player to get cut off the Steelers roster was Montravius Adams. And you will recall that before the Baltimore debacle, there was the Minneapolis debacle, the one in which Dalvin Cook steamrollered your favorite team for 205 yards on the ground all by himself. And it was in response to this, direct, obvious response to this, that the Steelers went and added Adams. And he impressed the Steelers to such a degree that even after Keanu Benton was drafted, same summer, Carl Dunbar was insisting to me that Adams was going to be his starting nose tackle until he'd get dethroned. That wasn't his word. Well, Benton did take the job, but my point is that Adams was still seen as being a real-life contributor because of his run defense. Poof, gone right away. So there go Roberts and Adams, two guys who made careers, livings, off stopping the run. Are these devastating, franchise-crushing moves to re-emphasize this point? No, and that's not what I'm getting at. It's that those were the first ones to go, even though those were the guys who were good at this, demonstrably good. The final one is, and this one, in all honesty, could be a case of my making a reach, but in my conversation with Deshaun Elliott a few days ago, when I was prefacing a question that I had for him by pointing out that he became the record setter in NFL Next Gen stats for tackling efficiency in 2024. I mean, every time he had an opportunity to tackle somebody, well, almost every time, 108 out of 111, that dude was down on his derriere. That's a phenomenal season. That's a phenomenal contribution to a run defense, never mind that he's coming up from the safety position. But here, I'll play for you how that part of that talk went.
When you look at the season that you had, the 3 missed, not even missed tackles, the advanced statistics on what you did last season were amazing. Can you appreciate that? Do you think you can improve upon it?
Yeah, I can definitely improve my game all around. They did a pretty decent job with the tackling, but I didn't get the ball more. I got to be a bigger leader for this defense, whether it's vocally or being able to get guys aligned, for us to be able to make sure we're all on our P's and Q's. But, it's more than just me. The reason why I was able to do that is because I have guys in front of me like PQ and Cam and TJ, Herb, KB. They make it easier on me. And all I can do is thank God for the position that Mike T is giving me, the opportunity to play this game. Because, I've been to a lot of places, but it's the only place where I feel like home. So I appreciate them so much for giving me the opportunity.
Sacrifice some of that tackling at the risk of going for the football? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Depends on what's going on. Like, if I'm at the point of the pack of the ball, I'm going to go for the ball, which I was last year. But sometimes, I just got to, last year I played around the line of scrimmage a lot. So I was just flying to the ball. So when you fly to the ball, you end up with 10, 11, 12 tackles a game. So I'm just trying to take some of that back, maybe get at some to the linebackers a little bit and get more takeaways, more interceptions, more forced fumbles, maybe some more sacks. So, it's a new season, new opportunities, but I'm excited.
Now, if I sound surprised there's a reason for it. I sure wasn't expecting that to be part of any answer. I sure wasn't expecting to hear Elliott say that he'd be open to sacrificing some of those tackles if it means going after the football a little bit more. Now, listen, I'm not one to advocate against takeaways. I don't know how many interceptions this secondary is going to have. 5 of them were lost by losing Dante Jackson, and Darius Slay, even though he's much better than Jackson in general coverage, had 0. No picks last year. Now, if I had to take some broad, educated guess in assembling all of this that I've laid out for you here, it does seem to me that, yes, certain things are going to change schematically. Certain things are going to change from an emphasis standpoint. But there's a bridge and a half that needs to get built between becoming better at stopping the run and these 3 things I just cited. When we come back, J1Q. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Luke, who says, DK, you've mentioned how Mike Tomlin never had anything to do with the offensive side of the ball when he had Ben Roethlisberger. Ben took care of everything, and since Ben left, the offense has been an abysmal failure. In my book, most or all of that blame has to fall on Tomlin. Is there a reason to think Aaron Rodgers can assume a similar role to what Ben filled and own the offensive side of the ball, or is that too much to ask for someone in year 1? I don't do a whole lot of speaking or writing in black and white tones, Luke, so I'm going to go back through your question and kind of soften those, at least from my own perspective, because you're attempting to describe things that I've relayed out toward you. I've never, for example, spoken or written or even thought that Tomlin never had anything to do with the offensive side of the ball. I don't just, lay out extremes like that. That would be really, really weird for a head coach. Of course, he's involved. What I have laid out to clarify it for anybody who hasn't heard it before is that Tomlin would prefer not to deal so much with the quarterback position. Now, does he communicate with them? Is he challenging them? Is he talking to them? Is he listening to them? Yeah, of course. All of that applies, and it applied when Ben was there. But there are teams in the National Football League that do a lot more from the hands-on context with their quarterbacks, plural, than the Steelers have done under Tomlin. He trusted, as you correctly suggest, Ben to take care of stuff. Now, the main thing that you ask is whether or not Rodgers can do something like that. I don't know that the question is whether he can do something like that as to what degree he'll want to, because I would expect that he'll really, really, really want to. This, what you're describing, whether it's year one for him with a new team or not, is going to be somewhat akin to breathing. He is a quarterback. He's been a quarterback the overwhelming majority of his life. He has to know at this very, very late stage of his career exactly how he wants everything. As I say that, you might be thinking about, plays or personnel, and I'm telling you, it's way beyond that. It's between games, it's drills, reps, days off, it's everything. Can he do it? Yes. Will he want to do it? Yes. Will he get to do it? Also, yes. Will he be held back by being new to the Steelers? Also, yes. Though I wouldn't suggest that would be to any dramatic degree. See, part of the reason that I was pushing as hard as I was to have Rodgers in camp, the way, for example, DK Metcalf was that everyone who's new can benefit from learning about their teammates, learning about their football traits, but also who they are as people. As I've shared with everyone on this show, I was impressed with Rodgers through minicamp, both in terms of what he was doing in the drills and the way he was carrying himself with the rest of the group. He didn't seem to be acting as if he was above anybody. There's no one who wasn't getting some kind of conversation or acknowledgement from him. And infinitely more relevant than any of that, I saw him working with, at least as much as the drills and the format would allow, his wide receivers, his targets, his running backs. How do you like the ball? How do you get it handed off? How do you want it on which shoulder whenever you're running that route or this route? Or I'm sure some of it was in the other direction, because he's not going to be taking guidance from Roman Wilson as much as it would be the other way around. I've had and continue to have a lot of concerns about this move. But whether or not Rodgers could handle any mental or organizational component to it, wow, never even crossed my mind. I appreciate the question, Luke. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We will not have a double shot of Steelers show this afternoon. Today, June 20, is a special day in my family's life, and I'm going to be investing it accordingly. We will be back with both this program and Double Shot of Steelers next Monday. Have a wonderful weekend.